This patient was brought into our clinic looking for help with supported standing. Alan had not experienced any bracing previous to this clinical visit. The physical therapists were hoping for an orthosis that would control the plantar flexion so that he would experience full contact standing during therapy activities. This family is skeptical of the value of bracing, and one of the purposes during our clinical visit was to try to demonstrate that they could both be successful in controlling the plantar flexion and fairly easy to use. The initial plan for using the braces was focusing on school therapy, where the therapist would provide the necessary support and repetitive applications. It was hoped that later the family would see the value and use them beyond the school therapy sessions. Perhaps our biggest question in planning for this patient was the availability of dorsiflexion range. You can see that the range is fully correctable when the therapist is holding Alan in her lap and applying dorsiflexion correction with her hands. Alan does not, however, demonstrate voluntary foot flat at any time in this video, which was representative of our entire clinical visit. We felt that the JumpStart Kangaroo would meet the needs of Alan very well. The Kangaroo JumpStart is lightweight, comfortable, did not require casting, is relatively inexpensive, very importantly, could be evaluated immediately at the time of fitting, and would make shoe wear easier than any of our custom alternatives. After assessing Alan for his range, we had a pretty good sense of what we would expect in providing this level of support to him. Number one, we certainly expected the JumpStarts to control the plantar flexion and provide him with a posture that should ensure foot flat during supported standing. From this dorsiflex position, we want to see Alan use the freedom allowed in this design to regularly dorsiflex further while he's weight-bearing flat on the floor. Repeated practice of this movement should help Alan learn to use active plantar flexion to control his knee position. We also expected the JumpStart to be very comfortable so that it could be worn for extended periods. Our hope is that this repetitive dorsiflexion and loading of the forefoot would start to build the sensory pattern that a young child needs to begin to control and use forward weight shift consistently. We chose the Kangaroo style of JumpStart because it is designed to completely block excess plantar flexion. The Bunny JumpStart is designed to resist plantar flexion, and if Alan had shown more voluntary modulation of his plantar flex position, we would have been inclined to select that model. It certainly would be hoped that if he develops better voluntary control of plantar flexion, that the Bunny would make a nice step down in control. We find the foot plates that we usually cast our custom designs with are more precise for measuring for the JumpStarts or other fast fit products compared to the sizing jigs. The JumpStarts, because of their flexible nature in the toe shelf, require shoes for comfort and functional performance. The shoes are a critical component. They also add quite a bit of compressive containment to the flexible body of the JumpStart. We like to recommend socks that have a wicking quality. A nice, smooth, fairly well-made sock is excellent and required. So when fitting the JumpStarts, first step in evaluating them on the patient is in fact to look at fit, which raises the question, what does fit look like? We initially try to seat the heel. Then the second thing to look at is in fact length. The toe shelf will often be a little bit longer than the patient's foot, probably a half an inch, when, with the heel seated, the overall length is correct. After placing the toe rise on Alan's JumpStart, we trimmed a little bit of the length to accommodate his shoes, but at the same time we left enough for growth. I usually look to see if the forefoot of the patient is reasonably matching the width of the JumpStart. The trim lines along the first and fifth metatarsal head for Alan looked appropriate, and we didn't do any other adjustments to the forefoot area. We noticed, though, at the time of initial fitting that the top of the kangaroo was coming up far enough on Alan's leg to actually engage his thigh when he went into knee flexion. So we decided to trim down the height of the posterior upright. We had to re-establish the flare that was on the original manufactured JumpStart, and you can see that we simply heated it with a heat gun and rolled it on the back of a chair. This is fairly easy to do. Primary consideration for building habituation will be comfort. The patient has to be comfortable enough in the orthoses to be able to wear them without undue stress. We're hoping that Alan could wear the brace most of the school day, and that opportunities to stand could be built into his daily activities that would be both frequent and varied, and that in so doing he'll start to participate in a broader range of activities and be more in tune with his peers and functional development of his age. It was expected that Alan would start with approximately 1 hour of use and add perhaps 20 to 30 minutes a day watching for redness. Because he's such a strong plantar flexor, one area of possible concern would be the back of his heel, particularly if he struggles and continues to try to piston or pull his heel up into the back of the brace. These would be areas that I would look for or be on the lookout for relative to comfort. By the way, comfort issues are often directly related to successful application of the brace. Another thing we will certainly be looking for during the first 3 weeks is an increase in function. This could be, in Alan's case, more standing, longer standing, a desire to start to walk, maybe with support, but generally an increase in frequency, duration, or challenge level of his normal function.